Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Biblical Story Series. I am Anthony, pastor at Crossroads Community Church, and this, as usual, is Brendan. And so we're going to be talking about the global influence of the mission of the gospel over the world over these next two episodes. And so I'm going to turn this over to Brendan, as this discussion is related to the article on the worldwide revolution of transformation that Christianity produced socially over the world. So Brendan, I'll turn it over to you.
So you mentioned that the audience or the first century audience, who, when they heard about the message of the cross, they thought it was foolishness. They thought it was stupidity. Now, why was it so stupid to them?
Okay, I want to quote Paul, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 18. He says, "For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God." Christianity, as it emerged in the world of the Roman Empire, emerged in a world, not just in the Roman Empire, but even beyond, to where the very nature of things showed people that favor, that blessing, that preference, that rights is given to the powerful, the dominant, those who have the strength to rule over others. And that was the central ethic, that was the central value that determined social relationships, from how the rich saw the poor, how the military saw citizens, how men saw women, how adults saw children. They saw it in terms of power. Christianity comes along and it says that God Almighty becomes a human being, the most powerful. And he does not rule it over, he does not dominate, he does not take over, but rather he goes to the cross, he suffers, he dies, and he identifies with the weakest. He identifies with criminals, he identifies with outsiders. And to the first century audience, it was absolute foolishness, and there was simply nothing like it within the realm of religion or philosophy. Yes, gods had died, but it was often a tragic death. Gods had died, but this is a victorious, intentional death that Jesus did. And so his identification with the poor, the helpless, the weak, thus elevating them to a place of dignity because he identified with them. And this was revolutionary. And so at first, for the Romans and for the Jews at the time, it was just total foolishness. It was absurdity. It was weirdness beyond weirdness.
Yeah, and I think furthermore, as a side note, that adds to the story of Jesus's validity, because if this was just a legend or a myth that someone was trying to make up and scam everyone, this is not the story that they would have come up with. That would have been foolishness.
That is an excellent point. This is not. This did not have a lot of what you call ticket value that people would want to purchase this. It was absolute foolishness, and so that certainly adds to the authenticity of its message.
Yeah. Moving on. This revolutionary message of the cross, what are some concrete ways it's changed the world? You mentioned that it's changed the world in quite an awesome way. So what are some specific ways this has happened?
Well, as Christians, as people began to embrace Jesus Christ, they took this belief, the ethic, the power of God in the cross, and it began to transform social relationships. So the first way is that Christianity started the first, shall we say, welfare system to the poor and the needy. In the Roman world and in the larger culture, the poor, the needy, the desperate, those on hard times, they were simply there because they deserved to be there, or the gods had appointed them to that place, or the forces of nature. And it was best that they be discarded. It was best that they be ignored. They were there to be looked down upon and ridiculed.
Yeah.
But now Christians look at those who are poor, who are suffering, who are needy, and with the teaching of Jesus and the ethic of the cross, these are people deserving of charity, of love, of giving, of dignity. And so because of that, Christianity started a process where they would collect money for the poor. They would do that on a weekly basis, and they would distribute, and they would care for people, even when it came to infants. If an infant was born deformed in Greece or Rome or other places, or was less than desirable, infants would just be discarded. Mm-hmm. Christians said this can't be. Everybody needs to have dignity cared for, because Jesus has died for everybody and he's identified with the least and the less. Mm-hmm. And so this was a reformation. Another change would be in relationships. The powerful simply had total rights to control, to dominate those who are weaker, or men who were powerful could simply dominate and had a right to women. Powerful people did, it was simply that there was not this sense of a mutuality. But Christianity comes along and says, husband, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself as a sacrifice. This was revolutionary. And so what Christianity is calling men to do is to respect their wives, to give them full voice within the relationship, as Paul would say in 1 Corinthians 7, husbands, your body is not your own, and wives, your body is not your own. They belong to each other. Yeah. And in that world of the Roman Empire, this would have been just unbelievable. And so it's a change within the relationships. Thirdly, it would be a change within how they cared for the sick and the ill. And that kind of goes back to the first point. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of caring for, that everybody deserved health care, that everybody deserved or needed or deserved to be cared for to a place of health when they were sick, was simply just unthinkable. Only the wealthy, only those who could afford it, could receive health care. Or maybe a slave would receive health care, but that was in order that he could work again. Now Christianity comes along and is developing systems of hospitals and medical care all over the world, and these were first started by the church. Wow. And so these are things we take for granted today, but they are the heritage of the cross, of Christian influence. I could go into so many others, and it brought a revolution, so that today when we see the Red Cross, well, that Red Cross means that if there's an emergency and people are in need, the Red Cross wants to be there to help. Well, what's that cross? It is based off of a Christian ethic of the cross.
So I'm hearing that, and that's how Christianity transformed the world then. But you mentioned in the article that the cross continues to inform culture now. Now, what does that mean?
Well, it needs to.
It needs to.
It needs to. I mean, I think it does. Christianity is spreading rapidly around the world, and it's more in what they call the southern, south of the equator, in areas of Africa and Asia and other places. But we need to continue to make the ethic of the cross central to how we understand our relationships, to how we understand caring for people within our society. We as Christians need to take the heritage that's been given to us of service to those who are poor, those who are needy, those who are on the margins, and all people, and to live lives and to practice our mission and to practice our ethic in the church and outside of the church in the harvest field in a way that shows everybody has dignity, value, and importance. And so the way we live socially, the way we are informed of how we consider how society should be structured and run, needs to be informed by the cross of Christ. And that's an important discussion that I think Christians need to have more often, rather than going, right or left or this particular group or this particular politician, but to ask ourselves, what does the cross call us to?
Yeah.
And so we need to uphold that ethic in a way, more than ever, and not become kind of blindsided just by all the political stirrings of the day.
Well, then I suppose with that answer, we've already dipped our toes into this a little bit, but is there anything else we can do with this information from this article and apply to our lives?
I would say that it is imperative that we develop more and more a discipleship of service to one another, that we call men, that we call women, that we call children, to lay down our lives for the good of others. And through that witness of service, and through that witness of giving, and through that witness that the world will take notice, but even more than the world taking notice, but the people who are being served, they will say, my goodness, I am experiencing a value in my life that I've never known. Where does that come from? And I think about Crossroads Field USA as we're in the outpost, and we are loving people, and we are just spending time with people, and we are discipling people that others are ignoring. As you, like in the Marine City Outpost, have led a man to Jesus Christ lately who doesn't have a lot of contact with a lot of people.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of relationships, but you and others have reached out to him and have befriended him. Served him, and he's come to embrace Jesus Christ. That is what Christianity did. They never said, how do we transform the world, because that's beyond our power. But it's rather, how does each person, each church obey Jesus? And as we obey Jesus, then that has an impact that continues to spread.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't do anything unless we can plan it. How do we plan? Well, you can't change hearts. You can't change culture, but you can serve and bring the power of the cross. And I believe that there's great opportunity for us to do that today. And it's happening around the world. And I think it's going to continue to happen until Christ returns. And if you read the article, you'll see, more detail and testimony. And I believe that's what our foremost concern needs to be about, rather than just what's going on in, political office today.
Yeah,
so
certainly. Well, with that powerful message in mind, as always, the link to the article for this video that this video is based off of is in the description. And thank you, Anthony, for being with me today. And until next time.
All right. See you then.
Thank you for joining Anthony and I today on the Biblical Story video series. Please subscribe to the Crossroads CCO YouTube channel, like, and share this video. Until next time.